We gather here for the big debate, Nottaway County's historic election. I'm Robert Jones, and as I look around the room, I can say I feel good. I know most of it. I know the majority of it. That's a good thing. I believe that the sheriff, besides being a capable leader, must be a person that the voters know, must be a person that the voters trust. And the sheriff should be there to do the right thing. Four main things have guided me in my life, and from this point to this point. And I'm gonna say that's God, community, and common sense. These four things make me the man you see before you today. They make Robert Jones the right man to be your sheriff. A little bit about me: I'm married to the former Sheila Wilson, and I have 3 sons, all who were raised or being raised right here in Nottaway County. My life is vested here in Nottaway County. I was hired in 1997 as a road deputy by Sheriff Parrish. For the last 21 years, I've worked in almost every capacity in this office, rising through the ranks from a patrol deputy, sergeant, master deputy sergeant, and now lieutenant third in command in the department. I've attended, received, and been certified in numerous specialized training from school resource officer, various homicide investigation schools, tactical training, and first line supervisor, just to name a few. From my time in the U.S. Navy, my professional trade work as a cabinet maker, DOC employer, former Nottaway squad member, and EMT. I've been a former Little League coach, former scout leader. I have always strived to do the best that I can do and be the best at what I do. I brought that passion and fairness with me when I was appointed to a deputy all these years ago in Nottaway. I know and understand how the sheriff's office works and intertwine with other county agencies and boards, and how the different agencies do and must work together.
Sorry to interrupt. Thank you, Lieutenant Jones. We'll certainly hear more from you later this evening. 2 minutes is a short bit of time, but as you can see, 2 times 5 is 10, so we want to get through round 1. But thank you, Lieutenant Jones. Sergeant Mayton, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here tonight, and it's a pleasure to be able to run for sheriff in Nottaway County. I want to touch on a few things that I would like to see and I'd like to see implemented. One of the things that I would like to see implemented is school resource officers. I think that's a big key to the schools. I'd like to see it started early in elementary schools so everybody can build early relationships prior to going to high schools and middle schools. One of the other things that I think that goes hand in hand with that is active shooters training. And I think that's something that we need to implement along with that. We all need to work together, and all the police departments need to work together so we can all come together at the same time and have the same common goal if anything does occur. I also believe that the sheriff's office should be a proactive department and not wait for things to happen and be more reactive. Another key thing I would like to work on is the drugs. Drugs lead to many things in this county. It leads to B&Es, breaking and enterings, and all sorts of things, property crimes. I like to see that's a big part and a big key that I'd like to see us crack down on. One of the things I like to say is I've been a police officer with the Blackstone Police Department for 16 years. 9 of those as a sergeant. Prior to that, I've worked with the public. I also have been on volunteer fireman, been on the volunteer rescue squad. Before that, I worked in the grocery stores in Blackstone. Pretty much most of the people here I've seen coming to the grocery stores. I've been a public servant, and I will be there to the end. I have good integrity, and I have good intent in everything I do. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Sergeant Mayton. Mr. Morgan, the floor is yours.
Good evening, everybody. For those who don't know me, my name is Lonnie Morgan. I'm also a candidate for sheriff in Nottaway County. I grew up in Peru, Virginia. Started on the Crew Fire Department when I was 15 years old. At the age of 19, I went into the Marine Corps, where I had tours during the Gulf War, 2 tours in Somalia, and 2 tours in Cuba. While I was in the Marines, I married my lovely wife, Lisa. We've been married over 20 years and had 2 wonderful children, both of which one is graduated from college, the other one is continuing her college career. I'm a Blackstone Town Councilman. I've been a Dixie Youth softball coach. I'm on the Blackstone Fire Department. I'm involved with the community. I've always been involved with the community. I have over 18 years of law enforcement experience in this county, 6 years in the town of Blackstone as a police officer, 13 approximately with the Nottaway Sheriff's Office where I was a general instructor. I was a firearm instructor certified through the state police. I was on the Nottaway County Drug Task Force where I brought numerous cases before the circuit court of illicit drugs. I will strive to do the best thing for the Sheriff's Office and the community. And if that means making changes, then changes need to be made. This is an opportunity for all of us, not just me and any other candidate here, but we need to progress forward. There's been no progression forward. It's been stagnant. We need to be more aggressive in the community, especially for our kids, where the resource officer comes into play. That's a necessity. That's not something you just want to wish for. We have to have it. We need 24-hour coverage in this county, around the clock, not just deputies that go in at 2 a.m. There's got to be rubber on the road. And we need community policing. That is where the deputy, any law enforcement officer gets involved with the community, the neighborhood watches. Just checking on elderly people every week, whatever you can do. I would really appreciate your vote on November 5th. I think we can do a lot of things to progress forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Morgan. We will now shift our focus over to opening statements for the candidates for Commonwealth's Attorney. Baxter Stigall, you have the floor.
My name is Baxter Stigall. I've lived in Crewe for almost a decade. I've lived in Southside my entire adult life. I'm a father, a husband, a combat vet, a paratrooper, and a former police officer. I'm running for Commonwealth's Attorney. I'm the Assistant Commonwealth's Attorney just next door in Lunenburg. As a cop in Crewe, I had the privilege of serving on the County Drug Task Force, along with 2 of the guys over here, which gave me a front row seat to the problems this county is facing. Many folks look to the police to protect us. They're the ones on the front lines making the arrests. But that's only half the process. Once those charges are brought, it's up to the Commonwealth's Attorney who's responsible for prosecuting those crimes to ensure our community is kept safe. You can have the most hardworking, dedicated police force, but if you don't have a CA willing to do the part, it defeats the purpose. Both bodies of law enforcement have to work together. And yes, as defined by the Code of Virginia, the Commonwealth's Attorney is the leadership arm of law enforcement. Weak leadership and lackluster prosecution have a direct effect on the overall and long-term safety of our community. If criminals don't worry about the consequences of their actions and are turned loose with no punishment, they're more likely to continue to prey on the citizens. People all know that crime is on the rise, and I'm tired of hearing from my friends and neighbors they don't feel safe, and they don't feel that this office cares. Ladies and gentlemen, I care. This is my home. I would like to serve each and every one of you and clean up our county. Not every nail needs a hammer, and there are times when it's important to have grace in prosecution. But I am tired of seeing time after time violent criminals, drug dealers, and repeat offenders being let back out on the streets due to slap on the wrist prosecution and weak plea deals. People are not numbers, people come first. It's high time somebody took a stand. Our citizens deserve leadership willing to protect them and hold folks accountable who hurt others. I believe in Nottoway County.
Sorry to interrupt. Thank you, Mr. Stigall. It's Stigall. I keep saying Stigall. Stigall. Thank you. Next up, Leanne Watrous has the floor. Ms. Watrous.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Leanne Watrous, and I'm here tonight seeking your vote for Commonwealth's Attorney on November 5th. I've been a licensed attorney in Virginia for 7 years, and in that time I've worked as a magistrate, a public defender, and a prosecutor. Having worked in all 3 of those roles, I've seen full circle the prosecution of a criminal case, from the time that our officers seek search warrants and arrest warrants from the magistrate, from working on defense theories of the case, to ultimately working on prosecution strategies to best protect our community. I moved to Nottoway County about 3 years ago, or almost 3 years ago, when I started as the Assistant Commonwealth's Attorney, and I'm now serving as your Commonwealth's Attorney. I come from a family with a history of service, and that instilled in me a desire to serve my community. My mother has spent the majority of her career working in public education and currently serves as the superintendent of the Amelia County Public Schools. My father served for over 20 years in the United States Air Force. His father served as a 1-star general in the Air Force. My mother's father served in the Navy. I'm thankful for all those who have served, including my opponent. The family members of our military also sacrifice at home, and I'm thankful for their sacrifices as well. I became a prosecutor to help people, to protect our community, and to seek justice. Throughout my campaign, I have focused on my goals, my objectives, and my vision as the elected Commonwealth's Attorney, refraining from negativity, name-calling, and disparaging remarks. I've been told that in the last contested election for this office, that the issue of a past record came up. Well, I can tell you all here tonight, my record is excellent. I've never been arrested or accused of any criminal wrongdoing. I only have 1 traffic ticket, and that's from over 10 years ago. I've never been fired or asked to resign, and all of my work evaluations have been glowing. My experience as a magistrate, defense attorney, and prosecutor have provided me with the breadth of knowledge and trial experience to serve this county well as your Commonwealth's attorney. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Waters. That concludes round one. Hold on just a second. We forgot to cut the most important microphone on tonight. The people's microphone. There you go.
Can you hear this okay? I would like to ask this question of each of the candidates for sheriff. Please give a simple yes or no answer, and I would like to get the answers from Lieutenant Jones, Sergeant Mayton, and Lonnie Morgan in that order. Democrat presidential candidates are talking more and more about confiscating our guns, especially firearms like the AR-15. If the government made any attempt to confiscate our guns, it would most likely fall on the local police or sheriff's department to carry out that order. If elected, you will swear an oath to support the Constitution of the United States of America. Would you carry out an order from Washington that violates the Second Amendment and confiscate guns from the citizens of Nottoway County?
Thank you, Mr. Outlaw. I will, in the interest of fairness, I want to start this response with Mr. Mayton, who did not get to go first last round. We'll go Mr. Mayton, and then Mr. Morgan, and then Lieutenant Jones. Mr. Mayton, the floor is yours to answer that question. You have 60 seconds. 3 no's.
Very much. That was the answer I was looking for.
All right, very good. The next question, sir, and you look familiar, I should know who you are, I'm sorry.
Bert Silverman,
Yes!
Blackstone.
Delbert Silverman from Blackstone, yes, sir.
I've looked at all the candidates. Do you feel you can perform your duties honestly in a fair and unbiased and unracial contest?
Is this for sheriffs or for everybody?
Everybody.
Could you repeat the question closer to the microphone so we can...
Will there be any racial confidence in your duty to take care of?
So the question is, can you carry out your duties without regards to race?
Creed or color?
All right, let's start over here. Let's go with Ms. Waters and work our way this way.
I absolutely feel that I can carry out my duties without racial conflict. I've removed race and sex from the cover sheets in the office. I don't believe it has any bearing on what justice is in the office. And in fact, even the secretary could tell you, my first day in circuit court in Nottoway County, I had a case. I was telling her a story. She said, well, who was the judge? I said, I don't know, I'm awful with names. It said, well, were they white or black? And I went, I don't know, it was a guy. It just doesn't come into play, and it's not relevant.
Thank you. Mr. Stegall?
Yes, sir. Absolutely not should race have any part in justice in our county. The Constitution is clear that the equal protection of the law is applied to all people, regardless of race, regardless of national origin, regardless of creed, regardless of religion. So in no way should race come into play. And while I understand and respect removing it from the cover sheets, unfortunately it's still on the warrants and the indictments. Put it simply, I agree with Ms. Waters that it should be ignored. What should be looked at is the merits of the crime, the specifics of that case, and then consistency should be applied no matter where the person comes from, no matter what neighborhood they live in, no matter how much money they have, no matter how well connected they might think they are in this county. Justice is blind, and consistency is fairness, and fairness is justice.
Thank you. We'll move right along to Mr. Morgan.
I can absolutely conduct my duties about it anyway.
Sergeant Mayton?
Yes, I agree with Mr. Morgan. That would not be an issue for me, sir. Never has, never will.
Lieutenant Jones?
And I can say for my 21 past years of service, our folks here know me already. Has there been an issue? There has not. I should say there is no issue.
Thank you very much, candidates. Very much. Can y'all, when the candidates don't use the microphone, can you hear still? I want to make sure. I advise the candidates to use the tools that you're given. We'll have one question from Sonny Abbott. He has several. We're going to let him ask one and then see how. No jeering, Chairman Bowman, no jeering.
My name's Sonny Abbott. I have a crew mailing address. I have a question for the candidates for the Commonwealth Attorney's Office. What criteria do you use if negotiating a plea deal, and should a defendant be threatened with a higher penalty in order to persuade that person to plead guilty to a lesser charge?
We'll start with Mr. Stegall. The question is about plea agreements. Take it away. We're just making note of the question. Don't start the clock yet.
What criteria do you use if negotiating a plea deal, and should a defendant be threatened with a higher penalty in order to persuade that person to plead guilty to a lesser charge?
I can emphatically say, I'll start with the second part first. And plea agreements, and I'm not gonna say plea deal, because I don't deal with weight charges. I make plea agreements when they are necessary for the best of victims and the county. As to threatening a higher sentence, I don't think that's appropriate. I think what should be done is we talk about the evidence, how strong it is, what is the likelihood of winning certain issues in motions at trial, what is the likelihood of conviction, and then we go off of what is a fair and just sentence if that person is convicted, everything is charged. That is the baseline of negotiations, not what do I think I might be able to stretch and stack on top in order to threaten me into pleading that. That's not how I roll. That's not the way it's done. With regard to the criteria for plea deal, I think I just kind of touched on a lot of those too, and that is the merits of the case, the person's criminal history, and then some input from the victim.
Thank you, Mr. Stegall. Sorry to interrupt. 2 minutes are up. Ms. Watrous.
When making a plea offer, there's several things that I will consider, and I say plea offer rather than plea negotiations because generally I will look at a file and determine what I think is fair and just in a case, and I'll make that offer. I don't do a lot of negotiating back and forth. I determine from the get-go, looking at these certain criteria, what I think is fair. I don't like to go back and forth. I'll look at the strength of the case, the strength of the evidence. Sometimes we have witnesses who are afraid to testify or may refuse to testify. Sometimes we have weaknesses in the evidence. I'll look at that, and then unfortunately our hands are somewhat bound in the courts here, in the criminal justice system here in Virginia, by sentencing guidelines. There are a set of factors that most judges are likely to stay within. So I'll run those to see what we think the person may be sentenced with when they're found guilty. As far as threatening any higher penalty, I don't believe in that. I believe in charging what is appropriate for the case, not threatening or charging something higher just to get a lower plea.
Very good. Thank you so much. Next up, I'll recognize someone I do recognize. That's Mr. Silverman's wife, Mary Ann.
That's how they answer a question if you currently hold a seat anywhere.
Let's stick to the questions. The commentary can come later. Just a brief reminder. Each of you has a program. It's green paper. We would like you to check the box of those you intend to vote for after tonight and place them in the box by the door on your way out. Ms. Silverman, the floor is yours. What is your question? Who's it for?
For the sheriffs.
For the sheriff's candidates.
And actually, it's sort of a two-part question. That's okay.
Absolutely. Two-part question. Go right ahead.
Okay. Number one, if you are elected sheriff, what changes would you make to the current way that the office is operated? And assume that you would get a $100,000 increase in budget. What would you do with that?
We will start this round with Mr. Morgan, and the question basically is, what changes would you make, and what would you do if you got $100,000 extra in your budget? Mr. Morgan, 60 seconds, please, 60 seconds.
The changes I would implement first would affect the deputy's work, so I can tell them I'm working and do one more thought. What would you know?
Use your microphone.
I'll advise everybody, just some tips, use the microphone or speak a lot louder. Everybody.
I would make implementations to change the way the deputies are run now. You get 1 weekend off a month. So you figure if you come up on a summertime, you get 3 weekends off with your family. You need to change, you need to get every weekend off, changing the shifts. You gotta have more people out here at nighttime. transportation, school resource officer, that's a necessity, it's not just a wish, that's a necessity. The $100,000 certainly will go toward public safety, things that may be increasing the number of deputies that we have, because as I understand right now, we don't have any more deputies than what's allotted by the state right now, so we have to bring some resources.
All right, thank you, Mr. Morgan. Sergeant Mayton?
I don't want to sound like I'm repeating what he's saying, but I agree with a lot of what he says. I believe that we should have 24-hour coverage in the county. At this point, we don't. We have officers going home at a certain time at night, and they are on call. Who wants to wait for somebody to respond when you're calling for help? Nobody. Based on $100,000, there's a lot I think we could do with that. One would be fighting a little bit better war on the drugs and getting out here, and of course that'll cut down on the other crime and property crimes. Also would like to see maybe more money going to dispatch, and maybe get us some more dispatch officers up in dispatch that can help out, because I know sometimes they're bombarded up there and they don't have the help that they need.
Very good. And rounding out the question, Lieutenant Jones, 60 seconds.
What changes we would make? That's a good question. Right now, we're working within the boundaries that we have. Board of Supervisors gives us money. The school board has certain requests how they want things done. We can't go in there and make them do things. We can't make the Board of Supervisors give us more than we ask for. We can ask for it, and as we saw the last few months ago, how the sheriff was turned down, asking for 2 more men. We have to work within the boundaries we got, and we do the best with what we have. And we're going to continue to do the best that we can do with what we have.
Thank you very much. I'm going to next recognize Roger Reynolds, then Mr. Ricky Rash, and then I'm going to, these students who have been so helpful, I'm going to let one or some of them ask a question if they so desire. So we'll go with Roger Reynolds. Is your question to all or some or who?
Good evening, thank y'all. This is for the 3 candidates for sheriff. I'm a life member of Burkeville Fire Department. The deputy presidents in that end of the county have suffered for years, and with 1 police officer in Burkeville. And my other part of the question is, when we have auto accidents, we have to wait on state troopers. Is there a way that the sheriff's department can work auto accidents where we're not on scene for 2 hours, waiting for a trooper to come from wherever?
I'd like to start this round with Lieutenant Jones, trying to mix it up a little bit. The question's about Burkeville, the lack of coverage that Mr. Reynolds says on the western end of the county.
Basically,
I recommend the microphone, I'm sorry. That's all right.
there's not a lack of coverage, unfortunately. We just don't have as many folks as we'd like to have. That's how it's always been. We do patrol Burkeville. I know I'm one of the residents. I'm in Burkeville a whole lot. Deputies do patrol that end of the county. The second question, what was the second question?
I think it was involving state trooper response. They have to wait on troopers to respond to accidents.
For state troopers, we can work accidents, and we have when there's extremely long wait time. We have work. But 9 times out of 10, state troopers, that's their bailiwick. That's what they do. And once they're notified, they're coming. They'll send somebody. They will be there. But again, we have work accidents. We have.
Very good, Sergeant Mayton.
Again, I think a lot of your accidents that you're talking about occur after midnight or 3 o'clock in the morning or 4 o'clock in the morning. Another reason why we need 24-hour coverage in this county, and why we need officers out here after that time and not on call, sitting in their house waiting for them to put their clothes on to come out and help somebody or to help the fire department. Yes, I don't know of anything that says that deputies cannot work a wreck.
Thank you, Sergeant Mayton. Mr. Morgan?
I would say that if it came down to where it was something as simple as a fender bender, no death involved in the, or fatality in an accident, and there's going to be a lack of response from the state police, then I think we should work there to get everybody back home. We're trained in the state, and the criminal justice academy to work accidents just like they are, just not as in depth as they do. There is a lack of coverage in Burkeville. I will say that there was a lack of coverage in Burkeville when I was deputy sheriff. That is something that with the 24-hour coverage, we get added manpower, we can assist with the chief able cannot do it all.
Thank you, Mr. Morgan. We're seeing a trend here. Sheriff's candidates seem to be getting the bulk of the questions. So I'm going to, Mr. Ricky Rash, you have a question for all 5, but we'll start with the Commonwealth's attorneys on the answer. So what is your question, Mr. Rash? And then we'll recognize Jenny Davis Bunn next on deck.
My question, I need to flesh it out just a little bit. My question to all five of you is, how has Hollywood affected your ability to investigate? And for the prosecution side, how has Hollywood and social media, and for social media for the sheriffs as well, affected your ability to investigate and prosecute from the start of an investigation into the courtroom, preparing your testimony as law enforcement, and preparing your testimony and your questions as prosecutors?
We will start with Ms. Leanne Watrous. This is an episode of Nightline.
I know everyone's probably heard of the CSI effect, and of course, but we run into that in prosecution. Folks expecting that you're going to have stuff in the forensic science department in every case, DNA, fingerprints, and we often don't have that. Another thing that we actually run into frequently that probably has something to do with Hollywood or social media is people expect to be able to get more into evidence than you can. Hearsay rules come into play all the time. I'll have someone say, well, I know so-and-so did so-and-so because this person told me. Unfortunately, that's not something I can use as a trial. It might be a great investigative tool, and I think we should use that completely. But as far as coming into court, a lot of that evidence simply can't come into court through the rules of evidence. So then we have to look for other ways. The Commonwealth Attorney needs to work with law enforcement to help explain what we need to do and what can and cannot actually come into evidence so that we can work as a team to get evidence that can actually be presented in court.
Thank you, Ms. Watrous. Mr. Stegall, 60 seconds.
Thank you. As it relates to Hollywood, I think one of, certainly the CSI effect is there, but another thing that we see is that people think that, what's her name, is it Zoe? She can solve a criminal case forensically in 20-minute episode before you can get up and go to the fridge. A lot of the lab is backed up, and we're not getting drugs back for 6-8 months. We're not getting DNA back unless there's some kind of rush on it for a murder case or something, sometimes over a year. So I think one of the frustrating parts when dealing with victims and witnesses is, and this is just, there's no way around it, you just don't get the evidence back because the state forensic lab is challenged from a manpower and money issue like the rest of us. As it relates to social media, I think one of the important things to remember about social media is first, and to the children out there, the youth, everything you put on social media is there forever. And police can get it through search warrants, and it is a treasure trove of an investigative tool. But the important part there is for the Commonwealth's attorney, as a leader in the law enforcement community, to work with the detectives in investigating.
Thank you, Mr. Stegall. I hate interrupting. Mama told me never interrupt somebody, but I gotta be fair. Sheriff's candidate, same question. We're gonna give you 30 seconds because you had time to think about it. Starting with Mr. Maiden, Sergeant Maiden. Trying to move us along.
Social media plays a big part in things. Stuff gets out there in social media, and that can hinder our investigations, or sometimes maybe help our investigations. Just like they spoke on stuff as far as going to the lab, you're going to wait 6 months to get drugs back from the lab. If you're going to send fingerprints, that could take anywhere from 3 months to 6 months. DNA could take you up to a year. Autopsies can sometimes go a year, year and a half before you get anything back. But social media plays a big part on things.
Thank you, Sergeant Maiden. Lieutenant Jones.
As Mr. Rash said earlier, the Hollywood effect. That describes it all right there. People look at TV and 15, 20 minutes, a case is solved. And like everybody's saying, that does not happen. The lab gets backed up, everything gets backed up, stuff gets collected. It just takes time to keep the chain of evidence. It just does not happen in the Hollywood like it does on TV. It does not happen in real life that way.
Thank you so much. And Mr. Morgan, 30 seconds.
The thing with Hollywood has no limitations. Unfortunately, damages, but there are limitations. You gotta have good evidence collection, procedure, and whatnot. One thing I learned when I did my criminal degree is it's all about communication, talking to people, getting evidence from people who see, hear, and whatnot. And basically, social media has got a lot of hearsay, so you got to really be careful with the basic facts when it comes to social media.
Social media is just lots of fun, isn't it? All right, thank you so much, candidates. I think I said we're going to recognize Jenny Davis Bunn. She's from Blackstone. And again, I would just ask people, I think you're better off speaking closer to the microphone, just a suggestion.
So this is for the candidates for Commonwealth Attorney. With over 60% of crimes drug-related and the recidivism rates very high. How willing have you been regarding your record? And would you be to recommend treatment versus incarceration?
The question will be answered first by Baxter Stigall, and it's basically, if you couldn't hear, it's about treatment versus punishment for first-time drug offenses. Is that right, Ms. Bunn? All right. Mr. Stigall?
Thank you,
60 seconds.
Thank you, Ms. Bunn, and I recognize the work that you do in the mental health field, and I congratulate you for it. It's a tough field. Drug use and addiction is a serious problem in our county and in our community. And I don't think that the way to fix a heroin addict is to lock him in prison forever. We have to incorporate mental health treatment and drug treatment, and I've done that regularly in the court cases. But my priorities instead are on the ones dealing it, the ones that are bringing the poison into our communities, profiting off of that pain and addiction. If they're lining their pockets off of the DTs that our family members face, and everyone in this room, I'm certain, knows somebody who deals with drug or alcohol addiction. So my priority, first to the users, is to help them get clean. To the dealers, it's one of my top priorities of prosecution is to be strict on that and tough on that.
Thank you so much, Ms. Watrous.
I do see drug addiction as a mental illness, and I think it's even classified as such in some areas. I have certainly had cases where I've seen it being a mental illness, and I've encouraged and agreed to treatment. I think at the end of the day, a lot of it comes down to the willingness of the person who's addicted to seek help. Just like any situation, it doesn't matter how many opportunities and resources we give someone if they've decided they're not willing to seek help. So I'm always willing to give that person a first chance, a second chance. But sometimes when we see the same person coming in, and then as part of their drug addiction, they're victimizing their family, their friends, they're stealing from the community, they're breaking into houses, things like that. When it goes beyond simple use and drug addiction, that's when we have to have a tougher stance. Certainly mental health treatment and counseling can be a part of that, and substance abuse treatment, but we have to look at the actions that they're doing as a result even of their drug abuse and addiction.
Thank you so much. Good answers, both of you. Before we get, I see two adults. I want to give the students who've been here and helped me dramatically this evening. Any of y'all have a question before we continue with the grown-ups? You're young adults. Who would like to ask a question? Okay. Just state your name and where you live and let it go. She can wear two hats.
My name is Ryan Hurt from Burkeville, Virginia, and this is for the candidates running for sheriff's office. What is your plan to strengthen the relationship between police officers and people of color?
Questions about strengthening relationships between police officers and people of color. I can't remember who got the last question first. I think it's time for Mr. Morgan to go first, I believe.
I think one way to build a relationship, get into the school system.
Yeah, I recommend either speaking up real loud or use that microphone, candidates.
Getting into the school system, getting into the churches, just getting into the community. That's why I'm saying community policing, where you see us, you know who we are. I was on the sheriff's office several years ago. I don't know half the ones on the sheriff's office now. So it's all about getting to where everybody knows you, knows what you're about, knows that you can trust us. That's what it's all about. It's communication.
Okay, Sergeant Maiden.
Not to sound redundant, but getting into the schools, getting a school resource officer, establishing good relationships with everybody at the schools. I'm going to speak on one thing that we do in Blackstone. We hold different events in October. Every Wednesday we have a cookout, and we do it in different neighborhoods, and maybe it's a plan we could do something in different districts. That's be something I'd like to look forward to and see. I think that would help build too. But especially school resource officers. A school resource officer, get them in there, and maybe the school resource officer be somebody that goes after school and coaches, and that's another way to get in.
Very good. And Lieutenant Jones, 60 seconds.
All right, not to sound redundant, but again, we're talking about, basically, I feel the school is the biggest part of the community here right now. The school. That's where our little people are, that's where they start, that's where they grow up. And getting the officers into the school is probably the best way to do that. Because over the years I've worked through the schools, in the schools, and it's always good when those kids come up to you, say hi, they talk to you. Solved a lot of crimes that way. The kids find an officer they can trust and talk to them. So I'm gonna stick with that one too myself. I agree with that one. I'm gonna not say stick with that, but I agree with that. The officers, getting officers into the school, I think is a big part of it for the community.
Very good, thank you so much. Sir, if you'd like to come forward, you've been waiting over there patiently. I believe we're gonna go with these 4 people standing, and that will conclude round 2. But that's good questions. Well, this is your night. We appreciate y'all coming out. Yes, sir, state your name, where are you from?
My name is John Pettis. I'm from Crew. And the first question I have is for 2 people here. What are you all going, and what do you plan to implement for these people that's handling these drugs in the county? Because we know that they are dealing with these drugs because they have no way of taking care of themselves. And just to lock them up, whatever the book calls for, give them that kind of time and turn them back loose, they're going right back to where they left off. So what would you all suggest, and what type of program would you implement to get these people off of the drug, back into society, and become working adults again?
Before we start with the question, I want to make sure are you talking about drug users or drug dealers?
Drug users.
Users only, okay. Mr. Stigall? Mr. Stigall, you don't have the first crack at that.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Pettis. I remember my microphone. Thank you, Mr. Pettis. And I will stick specifically to the drug users here. One of the programs that's available, and it's hard to get into, and it's there's a lot of funding issues with it, but the Virginia Department of Corrections has what's called a CCAP, and I don't have the acronym memorized. I've got too many acronyms in my head from my Army days. But it's an intensive treatment program designed to help put people back on the street. It's got a job placement program component to it. I would love if we could find the money, and a lot of these questions are going to come down to money, to be able to partner with local counselors, to be able to partner with, there was a lady in Crew who runs a church and had run a previous drug re-entry type program. I'd love to work some of that stuff into, like we talked about plea agreements, if there's something like that, to where it helps get them a job skill, it helps them get work through the counseling to where they can get off of the drugs and then move forward into productive members of society. So those are a couple of ideas.
Thank you so much, Ms. Watrous.
We certainly need more resources, not only in this community, but in this state for handling drug abuse and helping drug users. When I was a defense attorney, one of the things that we would often do when I had clients who were addicted to drugs and we were trying to find those alternatives, because I knew they wouldn't do any better in jail. I'd have repeat clients, even just in the 15 months that I was a defense attorney, for drug use. And so what we would often do is look for other programs, because CCAP is great. It used to be detention and diversion, and the state has changed it to a different program now with the same general goals. But we would look at other programs and other methods of funding, because again, all of my clients were court-appointed clients, so they didn't have the funding resources. So we would look into, was there medical insurance that would help? Were there families that would help? And finding other programs. And they are out there, you just have to look. And so I believe in looking at the facts of every case and every person and creative sentencing to help solve the underlying problem. Because if you don't look at the underlying problem, you'll never fix it.
Thank you very much. We have a very pretty lady coming to the microphone. She looks familiar. I believe her name is Joyce Colburn. Somewhat of a surprise.
I'm Joyce Colburn of Blackstone, asking everyone this question. In your profession, what has been your biggest success and your biggest failure?
We'll start with the Commonwealth's attorney. Or disappointment. Failure. Stand corrected.
There you go.
Okay, this is biggest success and biggest failure. Biggest success is when I have had 2 incidents that come to mind. One as a defense attorney and one as a prosecutor. As a defense attorney, when I had a client that I represented come chase me down in the Walmart parking lot and say, "Thank you, I've turned my life around. Look, I got my license, I've done this," and to see their joy in their success. And so that's what I hope for all of our defendants that go through our system, is to find that. As a prosecutor, I had a victim come up to me at one of the events in the community and come and give me a hug. And this was a young lady who had been through a horrible incident, had been traumatized, had a difficult time in court, and to come up with a smile on her face and say, "I'm doing so much better." And to see the fact that prosecuting that case for her really gave her that joy. Biggest failure is when we see repeat defendants, and that's my biggest failure. When I can't win a case that I know is there because of facts or something else, and I feel like
Thank you very much. Mr. Stegall?
Yes, ma'am. I'd say my biggest professional success was successfully prosecuting a homicide in Cambridge. You guys may remember it's the one that had the firearm found in the river. Got the guy 30 years to serve. I felt that was a true success in getting justice for that young man that was killed and his family. My biggest failure professionally, when I was a police officer, January 30th, 2008, I was responding to a murder in Farmville. While responding, I struck and killed another motorist. I was convicted of reckless driving, charged with and convicted of reckless driving. And I could have boxed that up and put it away and never looked back. But instead what I did, I tried to make something positive out of it. And I created a program that's taught at the Central Virginia Police Academy that ever the deputies go here, and I'm going to run over if I need to, because this is important. And I created a program and teach it. I've taught it to over 1,100 police recruits, including the majority of the new officers and deputies that are in our county today, because I felt it was that important to teach them the lesson, the iron the hard way, so that they would not make the same mistake again. That's been my biggest.
Thank you, Mr. Stegall. Thank you. We'll continue on that order. We'll go from Mr. James, Lieutenant James, we'll start with you and work this way.
All right. My biggest success, I'm going to say, is raising the family here in Nottaway County. I've been here my whole life. And with my job, I got my job too. I agree with that. But I'm going to say my biggest success is raising a family. But on my job, my biggest success, that is a good question. I lump them together, biggest success, biggest failure. I don't look at life like that. Basically, I do the best I can all the time. Some days you might have down days, some days you might have good days, but I do the best I can every day. So I'm going to say that's my biggest success in life.
Thank you, Lieutenant Jones. Sergeant Mayton.
I guess my biggest success is becoming a police officer to change lives. That's my biggest success. And my biggest failure would be waiting too long to do that.
Thank you, Sergeant Mayton. Mr. Morgan.
My biggest success actually would be my family. Job-wise, when I was able to work in the emergency room at Chippenham Hospital, I was able to help assist to save more than one life. My biggest failure, when I was on the Blackstone Fire Department, before the term I'm on now, I fell through a building. When I came back to the department after recovering, I left because I just didn't feel like I could do it at the time. I felt like I let some of my peers down. But they welcomed me back, and I love them all for that.
Thank you all, candidates. A very, very tough question. We've got two more votes before we get to round three. I see another hand up. Come forward. If you, come on, sir. I'm just trying to be tight. It's 8:10. We're doing okay. Y'all seem to be engaged. I just don't want to see anybody fall asleep out there. So far, so good.
Okay, can we hear me? Okay, my name's Rob Rouse. I've been here about 4 months. We just retired from the military. The first article I read in the newspaper when we arrived to the community, and this is still the sheriff's, was a depressing article. Lack of resources, the deputies out in the middle of the night, and then they got to come back in for shift the next day, and you don't have enough resources to do the job. You just heard a question if you had $100,000. Well, I'm going to pose a question that you have no change. You're not going to have any money. How would you apply your leadership to change within the organization, rack and stack your priority of effort with the crime that's happening in this community? And what would you do different in the office to maximize the efficiency of the sheriff's office for this county?
Great question. We'll start with Sergeant Mayton, and then Lieutenant Jones will go in that order.
He would do that to me. That's a good question. Again, I'm going to go back to 24-hour shifts, having officers out during all hours of the night. It's hard to get more funding and more money to get officers out here. I completely understand that. That's a hard. Your question is hard, and it's hard to try. If you can't get officers and you can't get the money to do it, you're just going to have to get these officers, and they're already working hard as it is. The 24-hour shifts, I think, would have a lot to do with that, and it would have people out here more, and they can be seen out here. Money's the biggest issue with everything. If you don't have the money, it's going to be hard to do. It's something you're going to have to work, and you're going to have to go back and figure other ways to do things.
Thank you. Tim Jones.
Again, if you don't have the money, it is right hard to do certain things. Going on the 24-hour coverage, we've managed the best we can do with what we have. Basically, to have a 24-hour coverage, you need 2 teams of 8 men to start with. You need 2 teams of 8 men. You can cover the county 24 hours. Once you do that, though, those 2 men or those men on those teams, they cannot get sick. They can't take a day off, anything of that nature. They would have to work all the time on that shift. Once somebody gets sick, then you have to pull somebody from 2 days down the road, and somebody else got to cover that 24 hours or that 12 hours. So at that point, again, we manage what we have. We do the best we can. We've been doing that for the last probably 10 years. We're gonna do the best we can, because Nottaway County is worth. We're gonna do the best we can with what we have.
Thank you. And Mr. Morgan?
There's a lack of resources, and it has been for some time. It would take restructuring. There are great deputies that work up there now. They may have to go from 8 hours to a 12-hour shift. I would not have a problem being from behind the desk and out here on the road as well. But it's gonna take a lot more going to the board of supervisors. There's got to be more funding because of the way things are changing. You know, you can squeeze the water egg when it's so much, then the water's gonna start coming. So that's about the point they're at now. So it's gonna take a lot of restructuring and more money.
We thank you for your question. Welcome to Nottaway County. Come on over here. This has been great audience participation. Outstanding. I believe this is Barbara Morris.
Hi, I'm Barbara Morris from Burnsville, Virginia. This is for the candidates for sheriff. All of you have mentioned about wanting to get a resource officer. I taught high school for 13 years in surrounding counties. We had one resource officer who was great, did a wonderful job. We had several resource officers that was not worth the taxpayers' money. How would you make sure that if you've got a resource officer, it's going to be doing the job that would really help us in our community?
We'll start with Mr. Morgan on this question. Can everybody hear the question? How will you make sure you hire a good school resource officer, not someone who just watches the clock?
Well, one of the good things we have about being in the locality is a lot of the people that want a sheriff's office now, we grew up together. So I don't think there'll be any problem, and I don't think anybody up there right now will be a problem putting them in the school. But it's certainly got to be somebody that you can trust, I can trust, and the students can trust. But I don't think it'll be that hard to find somebody here that can do that.
And again, not to sound redundant on everything he said, I completely agree with. There is training for school resource officer. It's 4.5 days training that you can take for school resource officer. Backgrounds, if you do hire new officers that are going to go do that, like he said, the ones that are there are good officers. I wouldn't think 1 second of putting anybody in the school that's up there. I wouldn't second guess any of them. If you do hire somebody just for that position to do that, then there's backgrounds for it. You're going to make sure you check everybody's background and make sure they're the type of person that you want to have at that school. But yes, they have training for that to make sure that they know what they're doing.
And Lieutenant Jones.
I just like to say I am a certified school resource officer. I understand what a school resource officer should be. I understand what the county really needs. A school resource officer needs to be the right person. And all our deputies, again, are good people. We hire them, we make sure they're great men and women, and they're a bunch of dedicated men and women. And I have no qualms putting none of them in the school system.
Thank you very much. I see Mr. John Rourke. Well, let me get a student here. We have a student here. Yes, ma'am. Yes, indeed. State your name and where you live.
My name is Megan Frank. I'm from Blacksville, Virginia. And my question is for the Commonwealth Attorney. I want to know what your thoughts on red flag laws are, and do you think they should be implemented in Virginia?
The question, ladies and gentlemen, is about red flag. This pertains to firearms, correct? The red flag law. We'll start with Ms. Watrous. Then we'll go with Mr. Stegall. Very fair of you to do that.
First, we don't have anything like that here in Virginia, and I would argue that there's already processes in place that cover all of those sorts of things that people ask for with regard to a red flag law. The idea is that if someone is so dangerous and a threat to others that we need to swoop in and seize their firearms from them, I would argue if they're that dangerous, why are they not either in jail or in a mental institution? And we already have mechanisms for both of those. I am an avid and ardent supporter of the Second Amendment, and I think that the types of legislation that I've heard floated, and certainly there isn't anything to compare it to in Virginia right now, I do think many of them would challenge greatly certain key tenets of our Constitution. I think the mechanisms that we've got in place now are more than sufficient, and they need to be used and used quickly. So the idea, if you see something, say something. If you see somebody in your school struggling with some kind of mental illness, and call somebody. That's the first step, is to pick up the phone, let an adult know, let a mental health counselor know, etc.
Thank you, Mr. Stigall. Ms. Waters.
Ms. Frank, I saw you raising your hand again. I wasn't sure if there was something you wanted to clarify. Okay, so if I understand your question, it's if someone posts something on social media, should that automatically go and mean someone can take their guns? I don't think so. I think we do have to take threats on social media seriously, because unfortunately we've seen where those things have gone sometimes in our society. But I think everything needs to be investigated. You need to look at things. If it is serious enough that there's a criminal offense, then maybe that is time to do it. But I do believe in our rights for firearms. I think we have to be careful when you start infringing upon those rights. It can become a slippery slope. I do encourage all young folks to be very cognizant of what you write on social media. It used to be you could say something and not get in trouble. Well, now you put the same threat that you may have said verbally in writing, and all of a sudden it becomes a felony. And so I think young folks don't completely understand that these days. So I would encourage everyone to be careful, but I think we also as a society have to be careful and not go a slippery slope and start taking our constitutional rights away.
Very good. Thank you, candidates. Mr. John Rourke, and then we'll have Ms. Bev Redden. Everybody doing okay? Everybody hearing okay? Okay, good, good.
Good evening, candidates. I got a question for the Commonwealth's attorney, but you know, I gotta say this, it is so disappointing to sit up here and hear the candidates for sure talking about needing resources. When I win District 2 and get on that board of supervisors, you guys, whoever wins this seat, will have that help, I promise you that.
Let's get to the question. Thank you, Mr. Rourke.
To the candidates here, I believe that community service could be an option to get some issues addressed in the county, namely like cutting costs to the county, like picking up trash, washing emergency services vehicles. Where do you guys stand as far as assigning community service to individuals as part of sentencing?
I've done that before. I think it's a great option. I'm sorry, Billy. I think
it's your turn. But seize them up.
I think it can be a great option, especially when you have situations where community resources have been used to bring this charge. Someone has lied to a law enforcement officer in the course of an investigation, so they've wasted our law enforcement time, they've wasted our court's time. So let's have them pay the community back through community service. I think it's a wonderful option. We can do it with individual victims as well. I've actually talked to a lady in Crew who was saying this person had potentially committed a crime, and she said, you know, if this juvenile just came and did some yard work, I would feel better, and I wouldn't want them prosecuted. I think the idea that paying back the community is important, and I think we could use that around the community, and I've used it in a few cases already, particularly those where law enforcement time essentially has been wasted.
Very good. Mr. Stigall.
Mr. Rourke, I think I want to drill down and hit what I think is at the core of your question. And I think community service in general is used regularly as a method in sentencing for a number of different crimes. I do that regularly in my job. I would continue using it. But I think to explore what you're asking, and that is the sites and the ways that people perform that community service, that's approved by either the Virginia Alcohol Safety Action Plan, called VASAP, or Piedmont Court Services, which is our local probation units. And I would gladly reach out to them and help identify with members of the Board of Supervisors, with concerned citizens, and spot some ways that we can, you know, I know that, I don't want to touch on y'all's issue, but the dumpsters are a hot ticket right now. Don't turn your head. But if they're willing to, you know, assign that as a site, I'd gladly have that be the community service place. We can use, and it's an easier way to tailor the punishment to fit the crime. You get tagged for littering, your key issue, littering,
Thank you, Mr.
picking up
Stigall.
trash.
Thank you, Mr. Stigall. We have Ms. Bear Redmond. If you're thinking of asking a question, I'll take one more, we'll get to round 3. We'll definitely recognize one of our students here. All right, Bear Redmond.
I mean, we know that 2 of you up here would be some of the most important people running our county. We've read some of your stuff that's on social media. We know some of you personally. What I want to know more about you as a person. Regarding the public service in our community, outside of the jobs that you currently have now, what have you done for Nottoway? We know you're in a race now. Everybody wants to win. But what have you done for Nottoway now, outside of your job? And what is the one thing that you hope to accomplish when you get in this new position?
We're talking about community service. We're just going left to right, starting with Lieutenant Jones. What have you done outside of your job in Nottoway County to help Nottoway County?
Well, I will say Nottoway County Sheriff's Office has been my life for the past few years. I have been a member of the emergency squad. Like I said, like we started off earlier, I have coached Little League, I've been in EMT, but for the last pretty much 10, 15 years, Nottoway County Sheriff's Office has been what I do. I do it there, I do that, and I do it well.
Thank you, Sergeant Major.
One thing I've done, I think, for Nottoway County, I was on the drug task force for 9 years. I fought it hard. I fought it long. I wish I was still on there. I wish I was still doing it. I got promoted as sergeant. I don't get to go out and do that like I used to. I think I went from here all the way through the county. I even went touched in Summit and Amelia when I was on the drug task force. I was a sworn officer with the state police during that time, and I could go anywhere around here. So I've been all around the county fighting drugs. I can't. What was the second part of the question? Public safety would be one of the things that I would change. Public safety.
Mr. Morgan.
Things I've done for and in Nottoway County, volunteer firefighter currently in Blackstone. I'm on the Blackstone Town Council. I've been a Dixie youth coach, and done various other things within the county. Mutual aid, when we have to go to help crew in Burkeville. What I would like to do, if I'm elected sheriff, is bridge the gap. Because there, like I said, the sheriff's office has gotten off on an island of its own. Like, and nobody knows who's on it, what they're doing, or anything. So we need to get more involved with the community, neighborhood watches, talking to people. If you have a church youth group, you have a group that's getting ready to get a driver's license, not right there, definitely come and talk to the kids, let them know what they expect from others. Anything to communicate.
Very good. Just to make sure we're clear on the question, your question is about community service, and also what's the main thing they do in their job that they're elected. Okay, we'll keep going left to right. Mr. Stigall.
Thank you, Ms. Redmond. I've lived a life of community service since before I was even an adult. I've been heavily involved in Boy Scouts my entire life. I am an Eagle Scout, and as an adult living in Southside, I've participated in helping the Scout troops with various different leadership aspects, teaching merit badges for them, helping them with running the troops, serving as a shooting sports coach on a number of different occasions. I have been also an NRA certified concealed handgun permit instructor. That's something I've done, and if elected, and that's not the main thing, but that's something I'd like to do, is offer those kind of classes free of charge to the citizens of Nottoway. The first time I ever came to Nottoway was on the back of a 5-ton truck in the Virginia Army National Guard headed to Fort Pickett. I have a long, extensive history with Virginia National Guard, where I served our community, and I repeatedly served in Nottoway County. Also served as a volunteer firefighter and EMT for a number of years, mostly in Prince Edward. Thank you,
Mr. Stigall.
Well, some of the things that I've done as far as public service for Nottoway County and helping in Nottoway County, I participated in a career fair here at the school. I'm a member of Rotary, and we help raise funds for scholarships, do different events in the community. I participate in our cookouts to just be a part of the community with the Blackstone cookouts. I've helped out with some stews, doing fundraising and things like that. One of the things that I hope to do and accomplish once I have a little bit more time, once this campaign is over in the office, is to really get involved with the schools through the office. I think our youth are our future in this county, and there's a lot of things that a lot of crimes that youth get charged with without realizing that it's a crime, whether it's writing a threat on social media or sexting or anything like that that children or youth may not understand is a crime. I think if I can go and be involved in the schools, do a presentation and help explain that, it's going to help our children go down a better path and not end up in the court system, the criminal court system.
Thank you so much. I'll now entertain a question from our students who would like to be. This is Jamie Bedreau from Blackstone.
Blackstone, I'm a senior now. This is directed toward candidate Maiden and candidate Morgan. You two have both mentioned implementing resource officers. How would you do that, specific plan-wise, and via funding and building relationships, what programs would you implement using a resource officer?
We'll start with Mr. Morgan. Let's make sure we clear the question. It's for you two, Mr. Maiden and Mr. Morgan.
So you both have talked about implementing a resource officer at the schools. How would you do this specific plan-wise? And what would you do with the funding, like such as programs and building relationships with students throughout the community in high school?
Okay. Mr. Morgan.
I think first we would have to look into it because, to my knowledge, it really recently hasn't been looked into to find out what is available. The first thing you would have to do is get the right person in there, and once you get the right person in there, then you have to communicate with the school system to see what's going to be best for the students and everyone involved. So it will certainly be something I have to look into because, like I said, to my knowledge, it hasn't been done recently. So I'm sure there's a lot of changes that have gone on since the last time it was looked into.
School resource officers should have been done a long time ago. There has been funding out there for school resource officers. It's been passed by. There's a funding that just passed this past year. We need to apply for it, and we need to get it. There's school resource officers available for the towns. The town of Crew can get a school resource officer. There's fundings out there for that. There are grants for that to fund these school resource officers. We just need to get out there and fill out the paperwork and send it in and try to get it. I think over $700,000 was given away last year by the governor for that. I'd like to see more drug programs and more education on drugs and what drugs can do to kids, or what to look for, or take it into the school and have examples on what drugs look like so the kids know what to look for.
Very good. I'd like to use the moderator's prerogative. I've heard school resource officer a lot tonight. I wanted to start going left and right on the table with the sheriff's candidates. Do you support school resource officers just at one school, all schools? And if you do support a school resource officer, all day long or just in shifts? Basically 60 seconds each, your vision of a school resource officer, one school or all schools, and how long are they there all day? Are they there all day or just part of the day?
I support school resource officers, and the thing about it, we're not going to get one for every school right away. We know that. So the school resource officer is going to be countywide. They would go from school to school. It would probably be more up here at the high school, because this is where more action, more people, this is where most of the kids are. But we have other schools in the county, and the school resource officer will not just be tied to one school.
Thank you. Sergeant Maiden. Basically, do you support school resource officers just one to rotate, one in every school, and if they're at school, are they there all day, or are they just part of the day? What's your vision?
Well, of course, with my last speech that I had, I do support school resource officer. I think a school resource officer should be at every school. Like I said, there are grants available. You can get, Crew can get one for the Crew Elementary School. Blackstone can get one for the Blackstone Primary School, and you can have one for every school. Yes, they should be there all day long. They should be there from the start of school till the end of school. We have to start building relationships with these kids, and I think that starts in the elementary and primary school. That's where it starts at.
Thank you. Mr. Morgan.
I supported school resource officers since day one when my campaign started. It's a necessity. They do have to be there all day. It's not something where you just check in and check out. Once they start school, you start school. It would probably take some time to do one in each school system in the county. That's not to say a road deputy can't stop at a school in Peru, or a road deputy can't stop at a school in Burkeville. What have you, just whatever comes up. So absolutely, I think something should start now, regardless of who gets elected, and start progressing forward.
Thank you, gentlemen. I'm clear now. I just want to be sure I'm clear and the audience is clear. Very good. I see no one else, so we're going to. The school resource officer, and this is y'all will have to help me. It's commonly called SRO. School resource officer is they are situated in a school. Some divisions have them armed, some don't. But they are a full-fledged police officer. They have arrest powers. They're a police officer in the school basically. They're usually your school resource officer has a little more finesse. They're not somebody out there making arrests and slapping handcuffs. They're trying to build a rapport with students and gain confidence and trust. And sometimes they can learn things and stop a problem before it starts. I'm winging it here.
They are a sworn police officer.
Yes, sworn police officer. Very good. Mr. Outlaw.
Whose responsibility is it to provide the resource officers? Do they come from the sheriff's department or do they come from the school division?
I believe, not to give anybody more time, but I believe they are under the direction of the sheriff in whatever locality they're in. Isn't that correct? They serve at the pleasure of the sheriff.
That is the big question right there.
Grants are available for that.
The grant starts you out, I believe the grant funding is heavy-handed on the front, and then at some point the locality may have to pick up more of the cost, I believe. These are good questions. A lot of us, you hear school resource officer in the news a lot, you just hear it, but we don't really think about what it is and what it means.
You can reapply for the grant and try to continue it on also.
Very good. Good factual questions.
Are you gonna have a supervisor meeting like this?
But we're going to get to that in just a moment. Mr. Silverman, you're on your toes. I'll ask y'all this right now. I mean, don't hold me to it. I've got this auditorium booked for next Thursday night. But I'm not going to have 15 people on stage because, as you can tell, 5 takes a lot of time. Would you rather see a forum for just the supervisors candidates or the school board members? How many say school board members only? How many say supervisors only? All right, slight advantage to the supervisors. Something we're going to think about. Folks, anyone? Mr. Abbott, you had several questions. I'll let you ask another if you'd like. And we'll get to round 3. You have.
I'd just like the sheriff to respond to what plans or methods will they use to obtain the necessary funding to support increased salaries and benefits, or more deputies to increase the 24/7 coverage, since our board of supervisors seem rather lackluster in that response.
We'll start with Sergeant Maiden. What's the question? Y'all understand the question?
Yes, that's something we'll have to sit down and discuss and figure out. That's not something we can come up with tonight, so that's going to take more time than just tonight. It's not a question I can answer and we can figure out tonight.
Mr. Morgan?
Certainly, since it's already started, it's going to become continued communication. I don't think it's something where just because you didn't get it now, you're not going to get it. I've talked to some people who are running for office, and I think they agree with me. It's going to have to be added coverage. It's a necessity. 10, 15, 20 years ago, you could get away with how few deputies there are on that. You cannot do it effectively. So, if the sheriff's office can't effectively do the job, they don't have enough people. Who else are you going to turn to? You cannot turn to your own local government. You need quality coverage, not just coverage that's just out there as a number to be answered on the radio.
Lieutenant Jones?
Both men made good points, and I definitely agree with that. What we need, basically, when the election is over with, I know we're going to have to work, one of us is going to have to work with the new board or some of the board members. We're just going to have to get together, we're going to have to talk with them and prioritize what we need. And they can understand that, and I'm pretty sure they will understand that. And I plan to make sure they do understand that.
Very good. 2 more questions for the moderator. Show of hands. Who in this audience, you've heard tonight the theme of limited funds. We hear that a lot. Now, whether you believe it or not, that's a philosophical issue. How many people here tonight are willing to pay higher taxes or think tax increases needed to increase public safety? If you believe tax increases are okay. I see over 50% of the audience that says they're willing to pay higher taxes and they believe higher taxes are needed. I want to go to the Commonwealth attorney candidates in a nutshell. We'll start with Mr. Stegall. In a nutshell, what is, and y'all see this because y'all prosecute in both counties, what's the biggest threat facing Nottoway County residents today, and what are you going to do about it?
Who do you want to go first?
You.
Let's focus on your question, not the start. The biggest threat to me that I see is violent crime and drug dealing. These have to be prioritized. We're watching violent offenders get let loose on time served, where their cases drop, and we've got to be willing to push through. I have prosecuted cases with victims and witnesses who are not really wanting to be cooperative, but we've trudged through and I've gotten convictions on those cases. And there are people in prison today, violent offenders, who the witnesses didn't really want to cooperate. But we didn't take no for an answer, and we pushed through and we tried the cases, and the violent offenders are where they need to be. Drug dealing, I was a drug task force officer as a police officer. I worked with two of the guys sitting over here. I've got a better handle on the drug problem in this county than most in the county. I think drug dealing has to be prioritized, and we have to be willing to hold drug dealers accountable if they are going to put money in their pockets off of the pain of addiction. We have to stiff sentences for drug dealers and put them away.
Thank you so much. Ms. Waters, what is the biggest issue threatening Nottaway County citizens, and what are you going to do about it?
The biggest issue we're facing is an increase in violent crime. During my predecessor's 7 years here, she didn't have a single traditional murder case. I have one going on right now, and there are 2 other death or murder investigations ongoing at this point. That is just during my time in the office. And in fact, that's really just in the last year. Our county really needs to focus on that. And I agree, violent criminals need significant jail time. And you're right, Mr. Stegall is right, there are ways sometimes to get around an uncooperative witness or a victim. However, when your victim refuses to come to court, they run, they hide, you can't find them, and that is all you have in a case. There's nothing you could do, or more importantly, when your victim gets on the stand and tells a completely different story than they told law enforcement, your hands are somewhat tied. You're left with either trying to impeach your own victim or going forward with a completely different story than what the investigation had provided.
Thank you so much. And I'm going to get to Mr. Allen. My last question, this is for the officers. Each one of y'all have had a good time as far as length of years serving in law enforcement in Nottaway County. Starting with Lieutenant Jones, is Nottaway County safer or more dangerous than 20 years ago? And if so, whatever your answer is, explain. Are we a safer community or more dangerous community than we were 20 years ago?
Well, it depends on the numbers again. I'm going to say we're probably about the same. Nottaway County population has grown more than they were 20 years ago. But 20 years ago, a lot of stuff probably wasn't reported either. So it's all in the numbers. But I think, personally, Nottaway County is one of the safer counties around here. I know it is. It's one of the safer counties around here. We got Amelia, we got Prince Edward, we got Lunenburg, all of them. Amelia and Prince Edward especially, they're encroaching upon Nottaway. They're bringing different people, and Nottaway is growing. They're coming here, and a lot of people I talk to say it's because of cheap rent. So they come in here, they're bringing the drugs here. So Nottaway, we've got it, and we're ready to fight it. But I'm not going to say we're a bad county. We're not more dangerous than we were 20 years ago.
Sergeant May?
I disagree. I think we're more dangerous than we were 20 years ago. People used to go, and they used to go fight hands. The hands aren't brought to fights anymore. There's guns. Guns are how they're solving things now. So I think it is more dangerous. You have more people out here with guns that are going to hurt people. Everybody has a right to bear arms. Everybody has a right to have a gun. But the wrong is getting in the wrong hands sometimes. And yes, I think it's more dangerous because more people that have violent tendencies, and all of these people out here that are dealing or selling drugs, they're the ones that have the guns. They're going to have the guns. And yes, I think it is more dangerous. That's why we need more officers.
And Mr. Morgan?
It is absolutely more dangerous than it used to be, and I can tell you that because I have something that you two don't. I don't ride around in a Marquis, so I see a whole lot more that I wish I had a badge right now. And what it is, the criminals are getting smarter, and they know what hours you're out here. They know where you're at. They listen to scanners, so they're getting a lot smarter. That's why we have to adapt with the time.
Very good. Folks, I believe it's Mr. Outlaw's question, and then we're going to go to round 3. This will be the last question of round 2. Mr. Outlaw.
In your opinion, is a greater police presence cut down on violent crime and drug problems in this county?
Ms. Watchers, let's go first. Would more officers help cut down on the crime problems in this county?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Going door to door, there are times where you don't see a single police officer for hours and hours on end. I know it's a resource problem, but absolutely, the more police presence you have in a community, the more the criminals are going to be paying attention. The more that they know that in a blink of an eye, a police officer may come around the corner. And that's also where we need citizens to be willing to report, but I know it can be concerning and it can be scary, especially when you're facing violent criminals and drug dealers.
Mr. Stegall?
Yes, sir. Absolutely. All 5 agencies that work in the county right now. The state police is down somewhere in the neighborhood of, I don't know, like 500 troopers. Blackstone is down. Crew has a position open right now. The sheriff's office is hemorrhaging people and is begging for more bodies. They're barely covering patrol. They have to cover patrol first. If they can get more bodies, that gives them more detectives. That is where the true increase in the ability to put a dent in violent crime and drug dealing comes from. I served on the task force with Lonnie and Tony, and I worked a number of cases with Robert when he was a detective. Still is. That is where the rubber meets the road in terms of putting long-term dents in violent crime. Your detective squads, you got your drug task force who can go out and do these proactive investigations and get ahead of the crime trends rather than just responding like patrol deputies with limited resources and limited training. They work very hard. I commend all of the men and women wearing a badge in this county. We need more detectives so we can
Very
handle the
good.
problem.
I saw a hand over here. I don't have my glasses on. I go back and forth. Who we got here? Ben Bradman again. Yes, Ben Bradman. Just speak up. That's good. Just for the audience benefit, she's asking the candidates for Commonwealth's attorney, what do you do when you have a witness that you know knows something but they're reluctant? You just throw your hands up in the air, or do you press forward? What do you do? This will go to Mr. Stegall first.
Yes, ma'am. One of the things that I did recently, the case I told you about, one of the things I did recently, the case that I told you about, and I was prepared to move forward with this because my victim failed to appear in court. She was intimidated from jail. Her abuser of 20 years, who stabbed her in the past and beaten her repeatedly, violated protective orders. He called her up and threatened her from jail and said he was going to hurt her if she showed up and testified, and she didn't. I was able to get her at the last minute, but I had prepared to move forward with a interesting doctrine called forfeiture by wrongdoing, and that is if your offender causes the witness not being available, you get to bring in hearsay. That's a unique tool that you can use when your victim is otherwise available, and it's very helpful in bringing the statements that they made to the police in at trial, even if your victim isn't sitting there. You can basically, you prosecute it like you would a murder if they weren't there.
Ms. Watrous?
Yes, you can often still go forward. A lot of it depends on and relies upon the investigation. I do it a lot in domestic violence cases, evidence-based prosecution. When we have pictures of the violence, we have statements, we have other things we can go off of. There's a lot of different tools and a lot of ways to present evidence to court, and it is important to look at all that. When you have forfeiture by wrongdoing, that certainly helps. It sometimes can be difficult to prove, but sometimes you end up with jail calls or things like that. I think that shows the importance of working as a team with law enforcement and being able to communicate and talk ahead of time and before the case in court so that you have all those resources. You have any possible pictures, you have body camera footage that you can then show the victim, hey, this is what you said before. The problem that we have is when a victim of, say, something like domestic violence gets on the stand and lies. Do you prosecute that person for lying and then cause them not to call the police next time and end up dead? Or not, and that's a tough decision to make.
Thank you so much, candidates. We are now going to go to round 3. Mr. Morgan, do you care to ask either of your opponents a question? All right.
This question is for Mr. Jones. When I was at the sheriff's office before after the Virginia Tech shootings, there was a policy that went into our SOP manual which stated any deputy responding to any situation at the school system, whether it be active shooting or whatnot, without waiting for backup, will enter the school to address the threat. Are you familiar with that? Has there ever been one incident of training for such an incident between that going into the SOP manual and today?
The question is about active shooter drill? Okay. 60 seconds to respond, Lieutenant Jones.
Yes, sir. There has been. We've had a number of active shooter trainings through the years. This year, basically, we delayed it again because of staffing problems. Because we partnered with Blackstone Police Department. This particular year, they were only able to send one, and they're one of the main people in it. And we rescheduled it. We haven't set a date yet, but we were planning sometime this month. But yes, we have had active shooter training drills. That's one of the, like I said, schools are big things. Schools are very important, the kids are very important. We've been doing that active shooter training for the officers, to get officers in the schools, the officers understand. This is not a game. Our officers are dedicated men and women. They know they have to respond if something like that happens to the school. And hopefully, pray God it never does happen, but we do train, we are ready for it. Our officers are ready for it.
All right, let him finish. Let Lieutenant James finish.
Every school in the county, we've trained in at least one time.
Mr. Morgan has 60 seconds to offer a rebuttal if he wishes. And everybody gets the same opportunity, so this is, yes.
That's the first I've been made aware of any training in the school system. I'm on the Blackstone Fire Department, which we've been trying for several months to get in touch with the sheriff's office and to training for stuff. And it's just like, you know, it keeps getting pushed off. We can't keep pushing things off anymore. It needs to be done now. We need to get together now. We have active personnel in Blackstone and the other fire departments, emergency squads that are eager to do this training. And not just wait. If you keep waiting, it's never going to be done. So it needs to be proactive.
Sergeant Main, is there a question you would like to ask either of your competitors? Okay. Then Lieutenant Jones, you will have an opportunity to ask a question of one of your opponents.
Well, I was going to go back on that particular question as far as having the people getting it done. Well, what we've been doing, we train for the active shooter situation. That's what the police officers do. That's what our policy manual says. The officer, the first one there, he's not going to wait for everybody to get there. The officer is going in there and trying to neutralize that situation and stop the threat. Now, we haven't had a chance to train with the fire department, any of those units yet. And again, it's resources. Basically, getting the men and time together to get the officers trained has been a problem. And we've been trying to do that, we've been doing that. But again, getting everybody together is always a problem. Getting all the resources, all the men, all the officers together to do that.
That wasn't really a question, but I did say we'd allow give and take, and I would give Mr. Morgan anything you care to respond on that. This is where we're going. All right, okay, very good. All right, now we'll go with the Commonwealth Attorney candidates. I believe in the rules, who did I state would ask the question first if they wish? I've got it written down. Hold on a second. Let's be fair. I don't want to get sued. It is Ms. Watchers. You may ask a question of your opponent if you wish.
Thank you, Mr. Colburn. Based off of my platform and what you've heard over these last 8-9 months, what is one thing that you have seen or heard that you will consider implementing if you are elected?
Based off the things in your platform, which piece of your platform would I implement? Unfortunately, I feel that we're somewhat diametrically opposed on a lot of the main pieces that our platform stem from. I do like the outreach to victims and witnesses. I think that is an excellent approach to speaking to them. It is something that we do regularly with my job in Lunenburg, and it's something I would continue to implement here in Novel.
Okay, Mr. Watchers, rebuttal, any comments, follow-up?
I guess I would disagree, Mr. Stegall, that we are diametrically opposed on a lot of things, as I stand for prosecuting violent crimes to the fullest extent and working with law enforcement. I think those are very important things that we have here in the community, but certainly the outreach to victims, I think that would be great if you were to win, that you would also continue that.
Okay. And conversely, Mr. Stegall, do you have a question of your opponent?
Yes, Ms. Watchers, I've spoken with a number of defense attorneys who work in the county who have told me that recently there were some changes in the criminal discovery policy in the Commonwealth Attorney's Office here. For those that don't know, criminal discovery is basically the opportunity ahead of trial for the prosecutor to share with the defense the facts of the case. Only a few things are required by law, and traditionally in Central Virginia, most agencies have had an open file policy where the information is sent over to the defense attorneys so they can see the police reports, they can have them in their hands, they can review the body camera footage. I have been told that there's been a restriction on that policy where now defense attorneys must make an appointment, come to the office, review the files, but are not able to copy or photograph any of the information, the police reports, anything like that. If this is the case, how is this policy not unfair to defendants who don't have the resources to pay an attorney an hourly rate to sit there in your office and review the case files?
Okay. Ms. Waters?
So there has been a change. It is just a different version of an open file policy, and that's been in part, or a large part, due to the increased caseload that we have here. We have significantly more cases here in Nottoway than Lunenburg, by the court numbers at least. And attorneys are still able to access all of the same things that they could before, and they can make copies of their clients' statements, things like that. They're still allowed, if they bring a thumb drive or something, to copy the body camera footage. They still have access to it. Instead, it is putting onus on defense attorneys rather than on our office, where we have 50% right now of the attorneys that we should have and 50% of the support staff. I have a letter drafted for any defendant who requests discovery, the same thing, that they can make an appointment and they can come in. I have two versions of a letter that I send when a discovery request comes in, one for attorneys and one that just spells it out a little bit more for a defendant who's unrepresented. I never want an unrepresented person to not still get justice and have the access to everything that they are entitled to under the Constitution, simply because they chose to represent themselves.
Okay, and you have 60 seconds for rebuttal.
I don't believe in hiding my cards. I don't believe in making the defendant pay an attorney an hourly rate to sit in the Commonwealth Attorney's Office and write by hand and take notes. What we do in Lunenburg and what I will continue here in Nottoway is giving out the copies of the entire police reports. Certain things will be redacted, domestic violence victims' addresses, social security numbers, and information that might threaten an ongoing police investigation. But I have no problem giving the entire police report over to the defense and letting them review it at their leisure in their office with their client, to give them the fullest opportunity to spot defenses so that we're not having trial by ambush, so that we're able to sit down and say, hey, look, this is probably where the arguments are going to be. Let's hammer those out and then we'll have the trial. That's what I believe in discovery policy. That's what I do now, and that's what I will continue if I'm elected here in Nottoway.
Thank you, candidates. Something we've never done in a forum before is have a give and take like that. So I thank all the candidates for participating. I want to thank y'all for being a great audience. Hours late. Round 4, the final round, is 60-second closing statements before you leave. This will be a box at the door, confidential. You may place your survey in that box. We're going to go right to left. Candidates, you have 60 seconds each. Make the case why you should be elected on November 5th.
So it's starting with me, right, Billy? I to say that was a yes. This is an important election, everyone. I've been serving the citizens of Nottoway County for almost 3 years now. During a typical work week, I work 10 to 14-hour days, 5 days a week, and at least one day on the weekend. My first priority is doing the job and doing it well. I take my work seriously. My ethics as a lawyer and as Commonwealth's attorney and my work ethic are beyond reproach. My courtroom performance is strong, and seeking justice in every case is my goal. I serve in a fair and equitable manner. I don't waste time bragging on success or writing press releases about my wins for Nottoway County. I prefer to spend my time preparing and serving. I do my job in a consistent manner. At times, I may have been accused as being too nice because I smile and I listen to people. I smile and listen to be respectful to others. Don't confuse being nice with not being an effective prosecutor. In the end, I'm hard on violent crimes, and in all cases, I seek justice. And I thank you for your vote for me for Commonwealth's Attorney.
Thank you, Ms. Waters. Mr. Speaker.
I believe that consistency breeds fairness, and fairness leads to justice. If we approach, as prosecutors, every case the same way, if we put an attorney on the scene of every violent crime so that one violent crime is not more important than another, it doesn't matter the neighborhood, it doesn't matter anything like that, then we build a good case working hand in hand with law enforcement. I have an excellent relationship with the law enforcement officers in Lunenburg. I have an excellent relationship with the law enforcement officers in Nottoway. Those relationships are what is necessary to build the best cases and bring them to trial. In order to be consistent, that brings fairness, and fairness then leads us to justice. So my approach towards violent crime and drug dealing as the top priorities, and the ability to work hand in hand, training and working alongside the police to help them bring the best cases while protecting the constitutional rights of the citizens. I ask for your vote this November 5th for Commonwealth Attorney Nottoway. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Seagal. Keep going right to left with Mr. Morgan. 60 seconds.
I grew up in this county. I've lived in this county my entire life with the exception of the 5 years I was in the Marines. Being a previous law enforcement officer in the town of Blackstone in the county of Nottoway, working the drug task force, being on the fire department, working in the nursing profession, working in a hospital setting, working under various supervisors to get different attitudes.
Going right to left with Mr. Morgan. 60 seconds.
I grew up in this county. I've lived in this county my entire life with the exception of the 5 years I was in the Marines. Being a previous law enforcement officer in the town of Blackstone in the county of Nottoway, working the drug task force, being on the fire department, working in the nursing profession, working in a hospital setting, working under various supervisors to get different attitudes, and being on the outside looking in of law enforcement, I think has given me a bit of an advantage. I see things from the outside in that I would not have noticed before being a police officer. I can make these things. Being on the town council in Blackstone, I've learned a lot about government and how it works. It's been very informative for me. These are things I feel like I can put toward being a successful and effective leader for this county. So I would really appreciate your vote coming November 5th.
Thank you, Mr. Morgan. Sergeant Mason.
Well, my years of experience in working with the public since I was the age of 18, I think makes me a good candidate. I've always worked with the public. I've been with the volunteer fire department, the rescue squad. I've worked on the drug task force and been a sworn officer with Virginia State Police. I worked many hours doing that. I worked most of my time with the Virginia State Police when I was doing the drugs. When I did that, I did it on my days off. That was my days off, not the hours I was given to work for the police department. I did that on my time. So I think my dedication and hard work and leading by example makes me one of the best candidates for sheriff. My ability to think outside the box is another reason why I think I'm a good candidate for sheriff. So I'll ask for your vote, and for you to come vote for me on November 5th.
Thank you, Sergeant Mason. And wrapping things up, Lieutenant Jones.
All right. Simple fact, I am the best candidate for the sheriff. I just want to get that out here. And as you close tonight, I want you to remember, November 1st, 2019, I will have 22 years of dedicated, unbroken service as a Nottoway County Deputy Sheriff. I'm the only candidate in the position to know and understand how the Sheriff's Office operates, serves citizens, and this community. I have the training, the knowledge, and the experience to be your sheriff. On Tuesday, November 5th, elect Robert Jones for the knowledge, for the experience, and the service that you know and that you trust. I am the right man, now is the right time, and on November 5th, Robert Jones is the right choice for sheriff. Thank you.
First, a round of applause for all the candidates, please.
Good job, guys.
On behalf of the Curry Record, I want to thank everybody for coming out. Please, again, take time when you go out. Feel free to meet the candidates.